Welcome back to the channel. This is my full Pimax Dream Air review, and it's a big one, so make sure you've got a brew and you've got a nice big comfy chair because we're going to go through everything. And I've got high hopes for this headset, but unfortunately it does fall down in some key areas. But are they deal breakers? Well, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you my first reaction using the headset, which I think is really important, and how it compares to some of its competitors as well. So let's start with the unboxing. This is what to expect when the Dream Air arrives at your door. A very special day that will be. And I'll just talk through the main specification first of all. This is Pimax's first small form factor micro OLED VR headset. That's right, it's got micro OLED technology, which in my opinion is the future for VR. The resolution is pretty hefty. It's 3840 by 3552. And that's approximately 8K overall combined. So it's kind of 4K per eye. We've got a refresh rate of 90Hz and 72, both at native resolution, and both refresh rates, I must tell you straight away, are very usable indeed. Now here, I'm just showing you the link box, which in my opinion, it's a shame it doesn't have a power button on it. And there's a variety of different adapters, of course, for your plug. And this is something I want to say is a negative straight away. The cable, in my opinion, while it's nice and light, it's not light enough for this headset because it's insanely light. We're talking 170 grams and it feels unbelievably light. And that's why the cable, well, I think the Big Screen Beyond cable, for example, is far better and more pliable. And it does, as you can see here from this footage, it still kind of gets caught up in itself and does drag the headset down, even though it has two leads going out the back of the strap there. Let's also talk about the facial interface and foam. These are not final. They are tweaked version from CES, but as you can see here, I mean, the build quality of the facial interface, you can tell it's kind of more of a prototype. I must admit, when you first put it on, and I'll show this in my first impressions, it feels really comfortable and it's very soft. But over a long session, you definitely get VR face and you'll get a red mark across your forehead. Also, you can see there just showing the two buttons at the bottom of the headset which can control the volume. There's also one on the top of the headset to the right hand side. And just getting back to the facial interface, I do feel you could get closer to those lenses even more. So I'm quite curious to see what maybe Studio Form can come up with, because I think they'll do a better job, quite honestly. This strap is the 2D strap, which does the job pretty well actually. But for me, I do prefer a hard strap. And there we go, we're just taking the facial interface off. And this is the party piece here, the lenses.
Oh, look at that. Absolutely beautiful lenses. Wow.
In terms of the brightness, we don't know exactly, but I'll also tell you right now, it is the brightest of all the micro OLED VR headsets out there, and obviously the same as the Crystal Super. The field of view, this is an interesting one because it's a claimed 110 degrees in default mode, but it can feasibly go up to 120 when using different profiles.
Bloody hell, man. That's stupidly light. Like, I can't even feel the weight. That's amazing.
And the big deal here, that 4K Sony micro OLED display is paired with Pimax's new concave view pancake lenses, which are bloody wonderful. They really are fantastic optics. And it's that pairing together that makes this very special indeed. More on that later, as well as some very nice through the lens footage in DCS World and MSFS. Talking of the lenses, I just want to quickly mention VR Optician. They have some fantastic lens inserts now for the Dream Air and Super OLED. And as you can see, they go into the frames perfectly and are completely unobtrusive. It's a great design. Those lenses are very, very expensive, so protect them with lens inserts, especially if you have a prescription, because it's really not ideal wearing glasses in this headset. And by the way, this is not sponsored. I just wanted to mention them because they work really well, and I now have a discount code for you guys in the notes below. Go check them out. Now, the tracking for this particular version that I'm using is Lighthouse tracking. I personally prefer it, and again, I'll talk about that a bit more during the video, but certain aspects of inside-out tracking is very, very handy when you're looking really far down at the console of perhaps your F-18 Hornet, or looking behind you. You can also fly at night time. It's the best tracking solution, but I appreciate it's also a lot more expensive because you've got to buy at least, well, ideally 2 base stations. There is an inside-out tracking version coming, but that's not part of this review. That'll be something for later down the road. Now, before we move on, I want to emphasize something straight away. This is an expensive headset, but actually, for what you're getting, it really isn't. Because we've also got fantastic Tobii eye tracking out of the box. I'm using it right now for DCS World, which is providing native frames per second. I'm using 72 Hz in this case, which in a micro OLED headset feels like 90 Hz. You don't get any strobing effects, or very minimal. And if you do have a top-end card with this, then you will enjoy 72 Hz native. And that is thanks to foveated rendering, which works perfectly out of the box with this headset. Combine that with 4K micro OLED from Sony, that's what you're really paying for here, the visuals. And I'll just show you some through lens footage now quickly. I'm going to show more of this during the video. It is absolutely insane. And this is just using a phone, nothing special. That's the kind of clarity we're talking about here. It is superb. And for those who already have the Super OLED, you know what I'm talking about. There is some big trade-offs though to this display, and I'll get more into that during my full conclusion, which is a bit further down the road, because what I want to show now is my very first impressions using the headset. That's the very first time I put it on my head. This segment is around 15 minutes long. Feel free to skip it, but I do feel it's quite important because it showcases what it's like from using the headset for the first time when it's all new and you're quite excited about it, versus what it's like over a long session. And I've now had the headset for well over a week, and I can tell you how it compares to that first experience. And after the first impressions, I'm going to give you my full conclusion with my field of view figures and all the rest of it. So without further ado, if you're interested in this next segment, this is my first reaction in MSFS 2024 Sim Update 5 Beta. Right then folks, this is it, my first impressions of the Dream Air, because I always say you can't get these feelings, these first reactions back. Okay, so the same thing applies. This is the same micro OLED engine from the Crystal Super OLED, and it looks phenomenal. Amazing colours, the best colours I've ever seen from any VR headset, and the clarity looks absolutely incredible. What we're going to do is jump into VR graphics. Let's have a look here. I just want to show you the resolution I'm pumping out. 5190 by 4168. That's the full native resolution, I think. Let me just check that. Yep, that's correct, because if you set Pimax Play to auto, it will actually upscale it a bit if you've got a 5090. Now, I am running the 5090 for this particular test. Of course, this is a high-end headset. So this soft strap, I've got to say, so I've just put it on my head. It's actually not too bad, to be fair. On first impressions, because that's what this is, this headset feels just really well balanced, like insanely light. And I never say this, I've never ever said this before, but I don't feel like it needs a top strap. These are the settings I'm running, I've just shown you, okay? So high, ultra, sort of mix, and I will put the FPS counter on as well. If you're not sure how to do that, by the way, go to General, Advanced Options, Developer Mode, and then on the screen here, not sure if you can see that or not, click Display, and there we go, that's our display. So I just want to talk about other things, such as the setup, which I will talk about, no doubt, in this very video. But first impressions, the setup was absolutely ridiculously easy. Like, I plugged it in, Pimax Play, found it straight away. It gave a nice little icon of the Dream Air, which I really like. And yeah, it detected it needed base stations. The base stations worked perfectly. I set Pimax XR. I calibrated the eye tracking, which took all of like 15 seconds, and it worked perfectly. So that's another thing I never used to say about Pimax headsets. I used to moan all the time that the setup used to take ages. But literally, I've been up and running in about 2 minutes, Not even that. So the usual things apply with this Sony 4K Micro OLED, and especially as I'm looking here on this white background, there is color fringing, and I feel it's stronger in this panel than it is in the Big Screen Beyond and the Megan X. But it's one of those things that if I kind of tighten this up a little bit more, because I've got this headset on quite loose, if I really tighten it to my face, which I don't tend to like doing, but I know some of you don't mind that, I've now got, the field of view is now maxed out even more, which I will talk about the field of view in this video and tell you my measurements. Now the colour fringing is less noticeable. It's still there, especially when you look down, it's quite strong. The change from white to brown is quite strong, but that's only really mainly on a white background. In terms of everything else, I mean, like warping, there is a little bit of warping actually, sort of a warping bubble when I move left and right, which I didn't see in the OLED so much. It was there, but not quite as strong as this. Basically, I'm looking at this rectangular box and the text down here, and as I move my head, it's just ever so slightly moving around. So there may be some alterations needed, particularly for this profile I'm using, which I'm sure will happen. Now, to put that into context, okay, this sort of warping bubble that I see ever so slightly when I'm looking for it is very similar to that of the Quest 3. And how many people do you know that moan about the distortion profile of the Quest 3? That's how picky I'm being here, folks. So that's why I want to put that into context. By the way, I absolutely friggin' love straight away this design of the cables going out of both sides of the headset. That makes this, in fact, I think that's why I don't need a top strap. I think that might be it, because it just sits on my head really well. Anyway, enough of that. I am just going to go for this quick first impressions as part of this main review. Oh, look at that. The panel on this is so beautiful. It's rich, vibrant, sharp. It really pops out of you. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And this is just the menu. You know, I always say, if a headset impresses me just by looking at a simple menu, I know it's going to be good. I've got high hopes for this headset, and I'm really intrigued to know about the audio as well. I did just try banging some Linkin Park through the speakers, and I was pleasantly surprised. They sounded pretty good. That is a surprise. But anyway, let's I need to find somewhere to fly. I don't know. I'm very excited here. Let's go to the Gold Coast in this little aircraft here. TAA mode. This is over a photogrammetry city, and I believe this particular scene starts off in a sunny day. Now, in terms of brightness, it feels the same as the Super OLED. I mean, I can't say for definite without doing an A/B comparison, but it feels the same. It's fine. I'm using 100% brightness. Another thing I'll mention as well, because all this is coming to me as I'm talking, this feels cooler than the Super OLED. Straight away, I can feel a bit of like a fan, just ever so slight bit of breeze just on my nose area and below my eyes, not into my eyes, but below my eyes. And that is a really nice feeling. Right then, so we're now in the aircraft. Let me just do a sound check, folks, because you might not be able to hear me, but straight away, friggin' hell, this looks, oh, it looks so good. Right, hang on a second, folks. Right, folks, sorry about that. I've just adjusted the settings because I think my microphone was far too sensitive, and also I'm getting a bit excited, so I'm going to try and kind of keep the level down a bit here. But that's what the first impression segment is all about, really, showing you my first reactions. And holy hell, this just looks absolutely phenomenal. One thing I love about these concave optics, well, many things, is just the distance. The objects in the distance look so sharp. In fact, they're that sharp I can see the photogrammetry is only just starting to load in there. In terms of FPS now, it feels very smooth. Let's just have a quick look. Oh yeah, so we're getting around 50 odd frames per second whilst recording with full TAA mode with very high settings. That's not bad at all, I would say. Now, another thing that's really hitting me in the face is the overlap. The binocular overlap. The standard settings for the Dream Air, I'll show you on the screen now using HMDQ. That's the perfect sweet spot for eye comfort. I don't really like to stretch it out too much, and I remember this was very similar, if not the same figures, with the pre-production version of the Super OLED. And the result is I can look left and right with my eyes, right to the far left and right, and still see through the same lens, if that makes sense. It feels a lot more 3D, and it's a lot more comfortable on my eyes. So even though, you know, it's great that Pimax are giving you the options down the road to change the field of view settings up to about 120 degrees, I just think that's kind of pushing things a bit. And please do take care of your eyes, folks. It's not nice to have eye strain, and the thing is about eye strain, it doesn't come on straight away. You might be flying for around 45 minutes to an hour before you start having eye strain, and once it starts, you'll probably have it all day. So I would personally recommend to go for a more conservative figure. This is perfect. So Pimax, I'm sure you're watching this, please keep this as the default profile because it's really comfortable on the eyes, and I prefer this over the extra few degrees of the Crystal Super. This feels really smooth. Right folks, I've just gone back into the settings and adjusted the foveated region just a little bit down, so I'm now at 0.4, which is still absolutely fine, and I'm getting even better performance now. Yeah, pretty much 60 frames per second, and if I wasn't recording I'd easily get 60 to maybe even 70 frames per second here. So yeah, the overlap for me in the Dream Air is well, quite simply a dream. I think it's absolutely perfect. I actually quite like this facial interface, even though it isn't final. I think the only thing I will say, I think maybe over time, this foam, it might kind of wear a little bit and maybe get a bit harsh. So I think maybe Studio Form, for example, probably will do a better job at providing some accessories for this headset. So I look forward to seeing what they've got in store, because as you know, Studio Form, well, they're the last word when it comes to comfort in VR. Oh, this looks so good. This, I mean, just amazing visuals here. Absolutely stunning visuals. The usual things, like I said before, applies. I'm not going to take too long with this first impressions because everything I've always said about the Super OLED, it's the same here. Perfect blue sky, no mirror, absolutely phenomenal sharpness, stunning edge-to-edge clarity. I mean, it's not completely to the edge, but really the optics in this are absolutely as good as they get, especially for micro OLED, which, let me tell you, is really hard to get decent lenses with tiny micro OLED displays. It's everything I love about the Super OLED, but with better form factor. Now, something else that's hitting me now that I'm thinking about, well, actually not thinking about, and that's the audio. I'm not thinking it's crap. I didn't even give it a second thought until now. That tells me the audio out of this very tiny speaker on both sides of this strap are pretty good. Like, yeah, it sounds good. It's not going to blow you away, but admittedly, this is a real shock. If I compare, like, say, the S-Mass, which is just absolute trash, the speakers in this are as good as the Quest 3, if not a bit better. I think, if anything, there's a slight bit of, yeah, better bass with these compared to the Quest 3. And, yeah, I mean, compared to D-Mass, they lack more bass and probably more volume. So I think this headset with the hopefully up-and-coming D-Mass audio strap will be the absolute killer combination. However, there is a negative that I've come across even in this first half an hour of the headset, and that is the link box, or the link between the two cables. I'm not sure if you can see at the back of the headset, is getting rather hot, and I can feel it on the back of my neck. Now, oddly, that does feel quite nice, but I'm not sure if that's very safe. So Pimax, please make sure you sort that out. That's probably just a teething problem or an issue with this particular cable, But that's getting very hot there. I'll show you a close-up picture where I mean. That sort of link box is getting very, very hot. Not just warm, but hot. So, yeah, that's an issue that needs sorting out. Not quite sure what's going on there. I presume they didn't have that at CES, running the Dream Air all day. I'll let Pimax know about that straight away, and hopefully they can resolve that. Because, yeah, it's quite a weird sensation. I feel like I've got, like, some sort of deep heat on my neck. Talking about my neck, wow, anyone who struggles with large headsets, this is just incredibly comfortable. It really is insanely comfortable. And again, I'm quite shocked with the whole package here. If you think about the fact this headset is around 170 grams, but you've got really good audio, something I was not expecting to say. I was expecting to say that was a negative, but it's not. It's not bad at all. I mean, it's not as good as DMAS, but it's pretty decent. You've got eye tracking that works out of the box perfectly. You've got the best VR visuals known to man right now. 4K Sony Micro OLED. Fantastic optics. A very nice field of view. Amazing colours. Let's just quickly do the black level test. Although I kind of know what it's going to look like. We've still got that pause. That's a Sabo issue. Oh wow, look at that. Holy crap. That looks amazing. Yes. That's what I'm talking about right here. And even though, weirdly, and I've said this a few times now, but if you're new to the channel, thanks for watching and please feel free to subscribe. The black levels in MSFS 2024 are not as good as other sims. I don't know why, but if I look at the cockpit here, that is completely black. All this here is pitch black, and then you've got this beautiful bright display. I'm still not getting any glare even in this particular scene, although I will say, folks, just because I'm not seeing glare, I can assure you this headset has glare. In fact, it has it quite a lot. I think some YouTubers are playing it down, but I do feel this headset has, you know, the glare in it can be quite pronounced at times, but only in certain scenarios, and you would think I would see it now, but it's not there. So let me see if I can try and demonstrate this. Obviously you won't see that on the recording. Sometimes it's around this sort of type of scene. Yeah, there we go. I'm looking over here now and I can see some glare at the bottom right and left of the lens, but the good thing is it's not in your direct vision, and it's only in certain scenarios like this. In fact, it's gone again now, but it is there. So please bear that in mind. If you hate any glare, don't buy this headset. This is phenomenal, but having said that, this is just my first 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to conclude this video by telling you what is it like to live with after hours and hours, days of using it, in my full conclusion, full review. So thanks for watching this part of the video. I'll see you into the future. Take care. Okay folks, so I hope you enjoyed that first impressions, because I really feel those emotions you don't get back. Normally that would be a separate video, but since I have had the headset for long enough now, including testing the prototype Dream Air and of course the Super OLEDs, I now have a full conclusion which I'm going to tell you now with the Dream Air. So if you're just watching this bit, welcome back to the channel, and let's get cracking with the conclusion. So let's start with the negatives first, because there's quite a few. The comfort actually is a negative when you compare it to the competition, that is the Big Screen Beyond and Meganex 8K. I feel both of those headsets, which are competing in this form factor, are far more comfortable. So Pimax still need to work on the facial interface, because that's the main issue of contention for me. It just is too abrasive on my skin, and after about an hour or so I start to feel quite a bit of pressure, but also worse than that, a huge red mark on my nose and on my forehead. In fact, funny enough, the red mark on my nose has stayed. So there we go. Also, I want to talk about the cable splitter box. It gets far too hot at the back of the headset. Now, I have let Pimax know, they are aware, and there's going to be a fix for this. Hopefully, it will mean that there will be new cables shipped out for those early pre-orders. And also, the build quality of the headset, in my opinion, is subpar in some places. It would have been nice to have an aluminium style shell, especially as it kind of shows it on some of the website pictures. I find that quite strange, and if I compare this to, say, the Play for Dream, it has a really nice, more premium finish about it. And this is even more confusing when you look at the headset's strap, because it has a really nice aluminium or metal style finish with the logo of the Pimax being sort of imprinted into the headset. It feels really premium, but yet the frontal housing feels quite plasticky. Not quite sure why that's the case, but it would have been nice, as I say, since this is a premium headset, to have a sort of metal shell around the housing of the headset, especially where the vents are. Also a very minor thing, but it would have been nice to see the LED Pimax logo light up like it does on the Super OLED. I think that would have really finished it off. Now, I want to talk about the visual fidelity of those micro OLED panels, which are the best in the business, but there are some trade-offs here. First of all, like I've mentioned in my first impressions, there is color fringing. That's a sort of brown tinting on the far outer edges. It's important to get as close as possible to the lenses to mitigate this. There is also glare in this headset, although it's fair to say there is less glare with this micro OLED pancake lens than any others on the market, and honestly, it's not an issue for me, but it has to be mentioned. I also want to talk about Pimax quickly as a company because they're rather elusive, and even though they are producing some of the best PC VR headsets on the market right now, I don't always agree with their decisions in terms of their marketing strategy, and especially when they announce headsets too early and over-promising and under-delivering. The shipping dates are often set back, and a really important point also about quality control again is this headset, while it's been sent to me by Pimax and while it hasn't been checked, it's still made in small volumes. When they start making these in bulk, quality control issues start to creep in. For example, some of these Super OLED optical engines have issues with the IPD adjustment, that kind of thing. So please do be aware that sometimes there is quality control issues. In fairness though to Pimax, they do offer a very competitive returns policy, which is very reassuring, and a 14-day trial period. I'm not sure if that is applicable to the micro OLED engine, so please do check the terms and conditions because it does change quite a lot. Right, now on to the positives, because there is a huge amount of positives, folks, okay? Let's start with the setup. It is super quick and easy. Solid software now from Pimax, it has to be said. Even the smart smoothing is starting to work better than before. Still a few issues with flashing, but overall it is definitely working better. And I really like how there's plenty of options to tweak FPS locking, IPD offset configuration, quad view support, upscaling, sharpness options. You can change the resolution, change everything basically. So very, very cool. And I got up and running with this headset in a matter of minutes. The overlap also with this headset is perfect. Please, Pimax, do not change this, especially for the default profile. I'll show the HMDQ settings now. I think I might have shown you that before, but this is again very important to talk about because the 110 degrees field of view horizontal with that overlap means it's all day comfortable. And this is by far the most comfortable headset I've ever worn for my eyes. It's absolutely sensational. Of course, I want to mention again the 4K panels because they are the highest quality you can get right now. Talking of quality control, in fairness to Pimax, and this is probably more of a Sony thing, I have now tested about 5 optical engines from them with the micro OLED panel, and not one of them had any issues with dead pixels or Mura or anything. They are all perfect. So I think it's more unlikely for you to get a dodgy panel. And that's the star of the show here, because the Sony 4K micro OLED is absolutely unsurpassed by any VR headset out there, including that of headsets that are 15 grand. Because I have tried all of them, folks, and this panel is the best of the best, without a question. There's no Mura, no imperfections that I can see, just absolutely perfect, crystal clear visuals, and it is to die for. It's a treat for the eyes. Also, it's worth mentioning the eye tracking because it's a massive positive for this headset. It's easy to use, works really well out of the box, and has full DFR support with a range of games and sims such as MSFS 2024, DCS World, lots of racing titles, and I'm sure lots of games as well. The pancake lenses themselves are absolutely first class as well. Like I mentioned, there is glare, but the optics are absolutely wonderful. They really are. Superb sharpness, especially in the distance. The edge shows clarity whilst in the sweet spot is really, really nice. And again, minimal glare. And overall, the combination of these optics and the 4K OLED panel is absolutely a match made in heaven. No doubt about it. And in terms of the form factor, I'm really struggling now, folks, to go back to any large VR headset because this is the future. It really is. And even though, ironically, the Super OLED is more comfortable on the face, you still feel that weight, and that lack of weight with this headset, especially when dogfighting and flying or whatever you're going to be doing, it's just all day comfortable. It's just that facial interface. They need to get that right. And then we're on to a winner. And just a few more positives here because as you can see, there is a lot. I love how there's both AMD and NVIDIA support. That's fantastic. The refresh rate being 72 Hz and 90 means there's a full scope for different GPU configurations. And also the audio on the strap is an absolute shocker for me. I'm really surprised how good it actually is. And to be fair, for most of you out there, you may not even want that option for DMAS speakers. I'm glad there is that down the road though as an option because for me, I still prefer the off-ear audio. But the piped audio from this strap is excellent and very, very comparable to the Quest 3, maybe even slightly better. And last but not least, I think the microphone is pretty good. Now for my first impressions, literally I'm just putting the headset on, doing a quick level check and I'm away. But for my other videos of the Dream Air, you will notice that the microphone is actually really, really good and an upgrade over the Super OLED. I think they're using different microphones. Now for my field of view figures, these are what I'm looking at here. 108 degrees and 89 vertical with that overlap there. As you can see, the default profile is absolutely the way to go in my opinion. I do think it's great though that they're looking at different profiles and maxing that binocular overlap for people who don't mind it. But for me personally, I would recommend the default profile. It rocks and it works really well. So in essence, folks, it nearly is the absolute best PC VR headset, period, without any question about it. But there are quite a few negatives out there that kind of really stall the success of this headset, particularly when it comes to the comfort. So I really hope they can get that dialed in. But there's no doubt about it, this is a massive monumental shift for PC VR with this high resolution micro OLED panel with this form factor and the eye tracking, the whole package with audio. It is a superb effort from Pimax and I really look forward to seeing how the headset progresses over the next few months. What do you think, folks? Let me know in the comments below. That is my full review of the Pimax Dream Air as of the 15th of February when I'm recording this. Things will change quite quickly, so I'm going to keep you updated and informed. And for now, I think that will do. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I do have a discount code for the Dream Air. I always forget to mention this. Please feel free to use it if you want to. There's no pressure there at all. And of course, Pimax did send me this headset for review. But as you can see from this channel, it makes no difference to my opinion on the headset. I've mentioned plenty of negatives, but there is a lot of positives as well, it must be said. And I do feel that over time, this will be the headset for 2026, so long as they can get those teething problems sorted. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.